everyone, and welcome to Sisters, Soul Food, and Diabetes, where we are bringing you delicious dishes and captivating conversations. We are four women, all living with diabetes, and all who love to throw down in the kitchen. So, thank you very much for tuning in to Sisters, Soul Food, and Diabetes.
Today, I'm going to be making a Gullah Geechee favorite called tater poon. But this recipe will actually have a little alternatives to make it low carb. So we'll see how it turns out. It's my first time doing low carb tater poon, but hopefully it'll be tasty. What are you making?
Hey everyone, it's Tiara. I am making a berry crisp. So this is my favorite recipe when I just need something that's easy to make and doesn't require a ton of cleanup. And I'm going to be making it in my cast iron skillet. And I live alone. So this is all going to be for me. And I will probably leave it all today. So I'm just getting out the way right now.
Hey everyone, Mila here. I am making some lemon bars today. And what I love about this particular recipe is it uses familiar ingredients that you probably already have in your kitchen, but also some low carb substitutes that still make it tasty, still very sweet and tangy, but also make it less sugary so you don't have to deal with that blood sugar spike later on.
Hello, everyone. It's Tammy. I am making a blueberry cobbler, but it is not going to be low carb, unfortunately. But if you practice moderation, you should be fine. It's really a simple recipe, and that's the timer going off because it was in the oven.
Ooh, I better hurry up then.
Right at the right time. So perfect.
Is that right?
Mine might be
I'm
low
excited to chat
carb,
with
but
y'all.
you're gonna need your statin with this one.
That's a whole block of butter over there.
So should we go into what we were just discussing before we went live, or how do y'all?
I think that's such a great conversation for this. And just so everyone who's watching knows, we're all at different points in our recipe. So I pre-made mine. Felissa is right in the middle of her genius. Tiara too. They're chopping and throwing stuff in the pan. And then me and Tammy are we're done. We're just done.
So I guess first, let me just explain the ingredients that I have, just in case if anyone wants to make this. So I really like crisp because I don't make cobbler. I've really never made a cobbler, but crisp is a good way to cheat at that. Tammy, I would love to try yours if you want to teach me one day. But I'm using just oats and some flour and some salt and some cornstarch, but I just got some frozen veggies this morning. Ooh. And then I'm just going to throw it. I'm actually going to throw it in this bowl, and I'm going to put in some cornstarch so that way when it cooks, it gets all nice and thick, and some lemon juice to kind of brighten up all those flavors. And then I'm going to top it up with some, basically an oatmeal topping, and then I'm put it in the oven for 30 minutes.
I love the frozen berries, taking that part of the process out that makes it really hard to chop all that stuff. That's so smart.
Yes. And honestly, and I don't even chop up the frozen berries. I really just throw it in there. Also, I like them pretty whole. But today when I was at the grocery store, I thought about getting them fresh, to chop it up for the camera, but they were mad expensive because it's no longer summertime. So they're not in season. So, and these are $2.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So for me, I'm making tater poon. My family is originally from South Carolina, and tater poon is in many ways similar to a sweet potato pie, but there is no crust. So you have to thicken it up yourself. Typically, we use flour, but again, because I'm doing a low carb, I'm going to use the paleo flour. So these sweet potatoes were actually baked. I know some people, when they do sweet potato pie, they boil the sweet potatoes, but you boil all the goodness out. So I baked the sweet potatoes and I just smashed them up. Vanilla extract, cinnamon, nutmeg, butter, and instead of sugar, I'm going to be using the Splenda blend. And that is tater pone.
That sounds so easy and so good.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Seriously. And for me, so lemon bars, that's like the most basic of basic baking of all time. And I really love a shortbread crust with my lemon bars. So for my shortbread crust, I used a mixture of almond flour and all-purpose flour, unbleached white all-purpose flour. Mix that up with melted butter, salt, and vanilla, and then just pressed it into the pan and let that bake so it could set a little bit before I put the custard on top. And then custard, I cheated a little bit also. I didn't want to squeeze like 1,000 lemons. So I used lemon store lemon juice. And then I also squeezed in some fresh lemon to like brighten it up and give it that little bit of like natural sweetness. And then threw it in a bowl with 6 eggs, some xanthan gum, which is kind of like cornstarch in that it helps to thicken recipes, but it does it without as many carbohydrates. And it's similar, like you make a slurry with it to be able to thicken it up, let it dissolve, and then put all the rest of your ingredients in there. So my custard had like the lemon, the egg, a little tiny bit of salt, and then shameless plug, I work with Truvia all the time. So I use Truvia granulated, and then I'm going to use this confectioner's Truvia to sprinkle over the top to make them all like pretty and give it that little bit of added extra sweetness. So I like these because they're sweet and tart. And they give you that little pucker feeling. Like I always love that when I eat stuff with like lemon or lime. Yeah, so these are so good. And then the shortbread works surprisingly well with that mix of almond flour and white flour. And then you get a little bit of fat, a little bit of like carbohydrates in there. And it's a pretty good mix, if I say so myself.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
For mine, all I did, it's super fast and super easy. It's 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of unbleached all-purpose flour. Instead of sugar, you can use a substitute like Truvia or Splenda. I did not because it's not a cobbler I'm making for myself. It's for a cousin. Then there's like a teaspoon of lemon juice, and I did squeeze a lemon. And that's it. You throw a stick of butter in the pan and put it in the oven till it melts, and then you mix up your batter. Oh, you need milk, 2/3 cup of milk. And you make a batter out of the flour, the sugar, teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of baking powder. That's it. And then you just, your berries on there. It's that simple. You throw it all in the oven. But Mila, I want you to tell me how to make your crock pot one. I would love that, the slow cooker one.
Yeah, Tammy and I were talking about a slow cooker.
A slow cooker cobbler?
Yes, where you throw it all into your slow cooker. So crust first, then your filling, then like any top crust on top. You put it in the slow cooker and you cook it for like 4 to 5 hours on high. And it makes like a cobbler in your slow cooker, and you can serve it right out of the slow cooker.
That sounds amazing. I would love to do that. That's what I'm going to do for Thanksgiving. I'm going to dump everything in a pot and just take it to my mom's.
Yeah. I like your version better though. It's ready faster. I'm trying to eat.
Yeah, it's like really quick. It's like you bake it for 35 minutes and like mine is ready. It's like cooling. Yeah. So it was like nothing to throw it together. So that's why I like cobblers, because they're fast and you don't have to like stand and stir. I was going to be really ambitious and I was going to make my German chocolate cake. But then I thought, good God, you need 3 pans. It was going to be a show. So I was like, no, let me calm down.
I'm right there with you. Like I have a really good black bean brownie recipe with the chocolate avocado frosting, and then they're salted with sea salt on top. And I was gonna make that today, but food processor, all these other ingredients, and I was like, that's a lot of cleanup, and that's kind of just doing a lot for this conversation, I think.
Yeah,
but maybe next time.
People say that all the time. Like anytime I make a recipe, people are like, I'm not going to look at it if it's not less than like 7 ingredients. And if I could do it in 1 pan, amazing. So like it changed my mind on making recipes, because I love to cook and my husband does dishes. So I don't mind messing up a kitchen, but like, I was thinking like, okay, that does make sense. Like, why would anybody nobody like enjoys cooking when they're looking for a recipe. Like recipe developers enjoy cooking. So like we do the most, but like the average person is like, I do not want to fuss with all of that. Like, give me something easy. So it's been fun to like challenge myself to do like 7 or less ingredients and like one pot meals that are like still really delicious and not like mushy from throwing everything together.
Right. Yeah, I am.
Like made me get a like an Instant Pot. I think we were talking about Instant Pot after like our conversation last time.
Yeah.
And Tiara sous
I
vide.
still want one.
Oh my gosh! So
You
I
didn't
got
get one? I thought
It's amazing.
you.
Well, here's the thing. My birthday is in December, and so is like the holidays. And so I'm hoping that someone will get me one.
You better
I'm
catch a
almost like-
Black Friday sale.
Yeah, I'm
Right?
hoping my mom will be like, okay, because last time I put a bug in her ear about this Keurig, and then like, boom, for my birthday, I got a Keurig.
Well, Tammy's mom, if you're watching this, you know what she wants for her
Yes,
birthday.
that's all I want is that. But I want the fancy one that Felissa was talking about.
Yes, please don't get the one I have. Make sure it has a slow cooker button on it. Mine does
Okay.
not.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want the pressure cooker, slow cooker, rotate
Yes.
retired one. The
Mhm.
whole thing. Wakes you up in the morning, makes your coffee.
that you said rotates your tires one. It does feel like that. You read some of the descriptions, you're like, this thing refrigerates, dehydrates, sous vide, slow cooks,
Look,
fast
you
cooks.
know, my Instant Pot makes yogurt. And I was like, when am I ever going to feel like making yogurt?
Wow.
But I guess
Wow.
now, I guess
You
now I'll
haven't
give
tried
it a
it?
try. Huh?
You haven't
I haven't
tried
tried
to
it
make
yet.
yogurt? Do it.
Nope.
Why though? Why would you make yogurt? And then like everyone, yogurt is, you can just buy it.
I mean,
but,
like yogurt, there's just some recipes where I'm just like, I'm okay with just buying this at the store, and yogurt for me is one of them.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about natural hair products. I'm like,
Girl,
I don't want to buy mayonnaise and avocado and smash it up and put it in my hair when they make, shea moisture.
yes.
that was
Yes.
all of that was fun for me when I first went natural. Like making all like the hair products myself. Like every summer I used to make Shalo, which was just like shea butter, aloe vera gel, a little bit of olive oil, and that would keep my hair soft for days, which was easy in Maryland where where it's humid during the summertime.
Yeah.
But like
that's like
now,
here.
honestly, just tell me which brands are the best, and I'll go and buy.
Hi, this is Tammy, aka Femigog at FEMIGOG on Instagram, and you are watching Sistas, Soul Food, and Diabetes.
Let's
Oh, go
talk
ahead.
about this reversing type 2 diabetes conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So we were having a off-camera conversation. We decided to bring it on camera about companies that promote this idea of type 2 diabetes reversal. So I'll just say my little piece and then pass it around. I have a strong aversion to the language of reversal because I feel like if I'm in my car and I'm on I-95 leaving Miami heading to Boston, and then when I get to DC, I'm going to reverse my trip, it means I'm going back to Florida, right? Simple.
Right.
Yeah.
So it alludes to the fact that you are going to be where you were before you were diagnosed.
Right.
And I have a problem with that because once people who have their diabetes in remission, not reversal, once it's in remission, there is a chance that you may come out of remission. And if you believe that it's been reversed, what emotional tools do you have now that you are on medication to say, oh, what am I reversing it again? What's the language used there? My 2 cents.
I hear that language and I think it gives people false hope. And it's so unfortunate because it's like, it's a hard enough, hold on, let me tear my parchment paper so it's not like trickling over. It's hard, I'm cleaning my lemon bars since I finished them. It's hard enough to to cope with and feel like you can live with diabetes in a way that doesn't affect your mental health or doesn't make you feel stigmatized or feel like a bad person even for having this illness. And then when someone comes along and tells you, well, it's possible that like you could get rid of this and you never have to deal with it again, it's like this like false sense of security that makes you think it's so easy to get rid of it. It's so easy to turn it around. And then it's so easy to maintain that turnaround.
Right.
And like I think that's a lot of the reason that people also get stigmatized and get this judgment about having diabetes, because people hear the word reversal and they think like, oh, well, if you can reverse it, like what's your problem? Like you're just not trying hard enough or you're not doing enough. And it's so unfortunate that like that's the conversation that happens around it so often. And it's because of language like that lulls people into like a sense of like, okay, I could totally get rid of this and I would never have to deal with it again.
Right. And you know, kind of like what y'all was saying, like before we went live, like there is this pressure to tell people when they get diabetes, hey, you know what? Just eat a certain diet, which let's be real, if you're able to stick to a certain diet like keto or even something like vegan or whatever, that's a bit of a privilege. You kind of just have to work within your means. But also there isn't this explanation of like how diabetes works. And what cure means is that you're curing yourself and you don't have to worry about diabetes ever again. Like you are completely normal.
Yeah.
But as we all know here, like when you get diabetes, you have it and it's there for life. And what should be the practice is that, hey, you have this disease but it's highly manageable. Your life doesn't have to change too much. You may have to make some adjustments to some choices that you make each day, but otherwise you can be perfectly happy and healthy with it. But that's not the way that people market reversal or even remission. It's you're promising an end result that you can't necessarily guarantee, but also there isn't the explanation that this disease is forever once you have it. And that is something that's hard to reconcile when you're diagnosed what's deemed a critical lifestyle disease, and there's a lot of shame around it. You want to get rid of it, but you can't. And I wish that people would just focus on the adjustment instead of the trying to promise a cure-all, which doesn't exist. But also, like, I think some of these people know what they're doing, that they're taking advantage of people who are vulnerable, emotionally vulnerable, and kind of like what Felissa mentioned earlier, which is those emotional tools of, you know, the inevitable moments when your blood sugar is probably going to be high for an extended amount of time, where you are going to struggle with the disease. Why not focus on that instead of, you know, telling people to try keto, for instance, and then promising that their levels are going to go back to normal? Probably only focusing on blood sugar and not on like cholesterol or any other type of health indicator that's also important with managing diabetes. Yeah. So better explanation of how the disease actually works. And also telling people that it's okay if you have to go on medication, because, you know, quite frankly, it is a progressive disease. And if you have type 2, eventually you probably will need some sort of medication, and that's okay. Even if you're not using medication right now, if you have to go on it, that's fine, because it's keeping you alive. But we're not, you know, it's never really explained as something as a preventative towards other health complications when it comes to diabetes. It's always, you know, just talked about, hey, if you go on medication, you're bad at diabetes, which is just, you know, so messed up.
Yeah. And the constant conversation around it too, like. Yeah.
I mean, like, even I'm in different different type 2 Facebook groups, and every day the questions that always come up are, what can I eat? And can this be reversed? And how long would it take for me to reverse diabetes? And, you know, I see some responses where people talk about their own stories, which are helpful, but like, and sometimes I feel useless when I come in and I say, hey, you know, diabetes actually depends on the individual, and it actually does depend on the progression of the disease and different indicators if you're able to go into remission. And, you know, sometimes it sucks to be that person and say, like, you shouldn't put all your hopes into remission. You really should just put in your hopes into managing your blood glucose as well as you can right now.
Yeah.
But there is that draw to do that. Like, I lived nearly 3 years, no medication, diet and exercise only. So I was in groups for people who were managing type 2 diabetes with diet and exercise only.
Right.
And I mean, we were very strict about our carb intake, very strict about balancing the exercise with, the diet. And one of the things, well, I'm gonna say two things that came up often in those groups were we were not the best sociable people. It's like when we ate at 8 o'clock, we needed to eat at 8 o'clock, right? And so dinner parties would be planned around the meals. And then two, oftentimes in those groups, people would have a shot of insulin, in their refrigerator, especially during the holidays. But all in all, when I was at that point, it was an allure for physicians to kind of model me around as like an ideal patient. I always, pushed back from that because I understood that I'm diet and exercise only today. But who's to say that's the case tomorrow? And as we know, I was misdiagnosed and now I have a cute little insulin pump. So
when I was first diagnosed, everyone I talked to was talking about reversal. Like everyone was like, oh, you can reverse it. So I was like, oh, okay, well, you can reverse it. But I didn't realize how bad it made me feel because I thought, well, if I can reverse it, how come it's not working for me then? How come I can't? Because first I tried keto and then I had issues with, I had a protein imbalance and that caused another problem. And then I had a high cholesterol. I mean, I had a lot going on. And so I was like, okay, well, this isn't working. How come everyone can reverse it and I can't? So I had mental issues that were linked to trying to, cure my diabetes. And and I didn't know where to turn because everybody kept saying reverse. And then it wasn't until I started talking to a diabetes educator and a nutritionist and then getting information, but not everybody has that information. So that's mainly why I started talking about type 2 diabetes publicly because I felt so stigmatized. Like I felt horrible. I was depressed and upset about it. And I was thinking about it all the time and I was restricting everything and I was getting sick. And then in the middle of the night, my blood sugar would be 50. And then in the morning, it would be 200 because I was just doing everything, trying to reverse it. And so if more people talked about just managing and not hating yourself if you eat a potato and, if they did that, then I think that more people would be would seek out ways to manage their diabetes better. Because I have relatives right now who are diabetic who do nothing. They won't talk about it. They don't want you to talk about it because they feel like they did something bad. Like they don't, because they didn't take care of themselves. Now they're, now their health is bad, their health is poor, or they can't afford it because that's why I talk about budget stuff that's really cheap to make because I grew up with poor. I partially grew up on a farm. And then when we were in the city, you couldn't, fresh fruits and vegetables can be expensive. So you have to eat from a can. And if you have like Spam and frozen broccoli, somebody needs to tell you how to put something together. So, I mean, you don't have like a farmer's market where you can go strict, like Tiara was saying, like if you could go keto or vegan, that would be fantastic. Right. But you're talking like going to the store, 3 times a week?
Yeah.
Because, vegetables, fresh vegetables don't last for weeks in your freezer. Right. I mean, that sort of thing. So I would love if people would talk more about remission and management and how to cook on a budget for type 2 diabetes. Right. Like
I tell people I could do anything. You want vegan, you want vegetarian, I could do any of that as long as you give me a chef.
Which also costs money.
Exactly.
But even like, so it's interesting because like also like when it comes to like even just terms like things like a diabetic diet, like those just really irk my nerves because it's really just about healthy eating in general. It's something that we all should be eating, whether you have diabetes or not. And they're also like these very real barriers to getting the kind of health foods that you need. But there are also, I think, some misconceptions about what is, what's quality. So, these are frozen fruits, but when you buy frozen fruits and vegetables, they're frozen and picked at peak time. So you're not losing any nutritional value when you buy something that's frozen. And, kind of like what I said when we first started, like I went to the store today and blueberries and strawberries were $5 each. So I was not about to spend probably close to $20 just to make a blueberry crisp. I'm not doing that. However, I will go to the frozen aisle and see that these are maybe 2 for $2 or 2 for $5 or whatever, and still get the same kind of bang for my buck. So there should be more education around that, more nutrition education around that, instead of just like saying, go on keto, which when a lot of times when people think of keto, they do think of just like high fat, high protein meals that will wreck your cholesterol. And like you said, Tammy, you started having some protein issues. Those things really matter. But also I think in some of our online communities, I do think people should be less, like, I guess, assertive about something that worked for them. So if someone says, hey, I have diabetes, I'm newly diagnosed, what should I do? The first thing shouldn't be, you need to read, I'm not going to throw out any specific
don't
names,
do it. But we know who you're talking about.
You should go on a specific diet. I'll just say that.
I know who you're talking about.
There are quite a few names later. But
the same people your cousins tell you should follow, your coworkers tell you should follow. Come on now, everybody.
And also, like, if someone says, hey, I asked my provider about diabetes reversal and they said it's not possible, what should I do? I think there should be more responsibility within our communities to not say like, well, don't listen to your provider then, because you're not looking at that person.
They're right.
You don't know anything about that person other than what they just told you. If that person's provider says, hey, diabetes, unfortunately for you, like, or actually really not unfortunately, but I'm sorry, but you may not be able to put yourself in remission, but we can do X, Y, Z. We can give you a GLP-1 or whatever to help you manage it. Don't tell the person to not listen to the provider, because the provider has the best interest at heart. And also if they need a medication, that's also fine. But telling people don't listen to the providers or just to try something on their own, it's so dangerous. And it does feed into that stigma when it eventually does not work and that person feels like they did not try hard enough, that they feel like they failed. And then when you feel like a failure, you're like, screw it. I'm just going to just let it all go.
Yes.
Before I'm about to put this in the oven. So that's what it looks like.
Good.
It does. I saw you putting that oatmeal on top.
I know, that don't crumble.
Yeah, I crumbled it with brown sugar and butter. So I'm just gonna let it do its thing. And then I guess when it's brown enough, about 30, 40 minutes or whenever I feel like it before it burns, then I'll take it out.
That's an excellent cooking time before it burns.
Right before. Here, I can show you guys. I sprinkled some powdered sugar on top and then I sliced them.
Oh, they're lovely.
Ooh.
They look good.
So pretty.
Or I smell them through the
It's
door.
pretty. Oh, I can show my cobbler. Wait, is this pan still hot? No. I'm sitting down because of this crazy boot on my foot. It's trying to. There's the cobbler top.
Ooh.
Oh, that is gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, it looks so good, Tammy.
I'll cut into it and I'll show you guys.
And I am eating my tater poon.
Oh, it's pretty.
It still has to cool down some, but I'm gonna just take a little bit with vanilla bean ice cream. See, I like the balance. Remember, I made the tater poon low carb. So you got to have your ice cream, to bring you back up with
But like, what if you live with people who know that you have diabetes and they're just like, you have diabetes, you had to make a lifestyle change. However, I'm going to do everything that I want to do.
Becoming a mom, I'm not able to maintain that lifestyle that I had before. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Sistas, Soul Food, and Diabetes. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and come back for more.